Hey, what's up guys? Phil coming at you with a brand new Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile, and today we're going to be taking a look at my updated Harpie profile for the end of November going into December of 2019. Now before we jump into the profile, I want to let you guys know that I have started playing at a new locals, and it's a little bit more competitive than the previous locals. So you can see the deck is substantially different to decks that we've, had to go up against before. So, with that in mind, let's jump into it and hopefully you guys do enjoy it. Starting things off with our trusty old channeler at 3 copies, of course. When she's on the field and in the graveyard, we should mention this for all the main deck Harpie monsters, with the exception of Harpie Lady 1 that are in this deck. They count as Harpie Lady on the field and in the graveyard, and when she's on the field, once per turn, we can discard any Harpie card we want from our hand to the graveyard to special summon a Harpie monster from our deck in defense mode, and if we control a dragon, she becomes a level 7, so obviously the best. I think she'll be staying at 3 in Harpie decks, probably indefinitely, because she's easily one of the best Harpie cards ever printed. 2 copies of Harpist, and she's in the end phase. Of course, when she's in the end phase, if she was sent there this turn, if she's in the graveyard, you can add a level 4 Windwing Beast, 1500 or less attack points from your deck to your hand. Pretty straightforward. And the other effect is when she is normal summoned, you can target another one of your monsters, bounce to the hand, and then you can bounce one of the opponent's monsters that you target as well. Some nice synergy with your Link monster as well. And I have actually done this. Actually did use that effect to bait out a Cyber Dragon Infinity, which was actually pretty satisfying. Next up, 3 copies of Harpie Perfumer. So previous builds, I was running her at 2. Now I'm running her at 3 because Egotist is, like, amazing. And you want to be able to have access to Egotist as much as possible. When she's normal or special summon, go grab a spell or trap from your deck that lists Harpie Lady Sisters. So this can include Elegant Egotist, which is hilarious. And yeah, so if you have a level 5 or higher Harpie when you fit 6, search 2. That's not really relevant for us. We do play 2 dragons in the deck, one in the main deck, one in the extra deck. Not super consistent getting our level 5 Harpies out on the field, or 5 or higher Harpies, but being able to search Egotist like crazy, like being able to summon this, search Egotist, or use Channeler to ditch a card, summon this, get Egotist. So much potential plays you can do with this card, so easily why she's at 3 copies. You can also grab your field spell if you're going up against backrow heavy decks as well, which is great. Next up, we have our Egotist targets. I'm running 3 copies of Harpie Lady 1. So previously I was running 2 Harpie Lady 1, 1 Harpie Lady Sisters. Now bumped Harpie Lady 1 up to 3 because it's all about that rank 4 spam, man. That's what you want to get going. Now, if you want to, you can run Cyber Harpie as your 3rd target. Personally, right now, I'm running 3 copies of Harpie Lady 1 just because I always want to have access to the same card. Being able to pump all our monsters by 3 is really useful. It'll be 300. Next up, 2 copies of Harpie Queen. So I bumped Queen up to 2 from 1, so because I actually want to grab the field spell a lot of times. She's also a 1900 beat stick. She's an extra discard target. She's actually a card that you use to thin the deck as well, which is really good. And of course, a lot of back row heavy decks that I play against a lot, like Guru and Sky Strikers, and I think there was a few True Dracos at the locals that I'm playing. So having access to a card that's able to go get me a card that can destroy back row really, really easily is very, very useful. Feel free to run Queen at 1, but I do run an extra copy of Queen and an extra copy of the field spell in my side deck just in case, because you never know when you need it. Moving on to the one-off monsters, we have 1 copy of Oracle, 1 copy of Harpie Dancer, and 1 copy of Harpie's Pet Baby Dragon. So I still love Pet Baby. I think he's really useful, a very underrated card in this deck. Oracle can be special summoned if we control level 5 or higher Harpie hard once per turn. When it's normal or special summon, connect by its effect, and during the end phase, salvage a spell trap list Harpie Lady Sisters. Dancer, while she's on the field, you can target a win monster you control, bounce to the hand, and if you do, normal summon again, which in combination with the field spell can help you get rid of a few pesky back row, as well as with Harpie Conductor, bounce a pesky monster. And Pet Baby, of course, if you has the 3 different effects. The first effect means he must be attacked if you control 1 or more Harpies. 2 or more, his attack and defense are doubled. Then 3 or more, he can destroy a card on your opponent's side of the field, which is the main effect that you want to be using. Of course, also, if you get past, there can only be 1, which you can then use to go ahead and make something like a Nightmare Phoenix, which I do run in the side deck as well, just to get rid of some pesky back row, like there can only be 1, so nice, easy ways to get past that. Rounding off the monsters, 2 copies of Ash Blossom. Of course, with extra hand traps in the side deck. Spells, 3 copies of Elegant Egotist. It's up from 1 to 3 because how powerful the combo actually is, where you can just easily spam out all these rank 4s or all these heavy links as well. Like, the biggest downside that Harpies do have in terms of link format is that some of the really powerful link monsters like Sayudra and stuff require monsters that need different names, and of course all our Harpies have the same name on field, but thankfully there are some pretty cool link monsters that we can run in the deck that don't actually need that. 3 copies of Hysteric Sign. Of course, you know what it does. When it's activated, search or salvage Elegant Egotist. When it's destroyed or discarded and sent to the grave, during the end phase, search 3 Harpie cards with different names, i.e. this is the best way we have to search Featherstorm. So because of that, I was actually thinking of bumping Queen to 3 and the Field Spell to 3, just as easy ways to pop this as quickly as possible. Because Harpies really need to activate Featherstorm, and as soon as they can activate Featherstorm, you pretty much have the turn locked down. 2 copies of Hunting Ground in the main deck, like I said, and 1 copy in the extra deck, in the side deck. When Harpies are on the field, Harpies normal or special summon, pop 1 of Spell Trap on the field. It is mandatory. And also gives them 200 extra attack. It is sometimes relevant, not very, but the pop is the most relevant effect of this card. This card is still very overpowered, I feel. But I think the clause of it having to destroy both is still fair, but it's still a very powerful card. 2 copies of Harpie's Feather Roost, Archetypal Pot of Avarice. Why would you not run this? Now, we very rarely get the draw 2 in this build, and the draw 1 isn't super relevant. Of course, it is still a draw 1, which is very nice. It's a searchable card that lets us draw a card, but it lets us put Harpies back into our deck, and it lets us put our Conductors back in our extra decks, so very important. Main reason, of course, why I'm still running it at 2, also it is searchable and salvageable by Oracle and Perfumer, but a lot of times in this deck, I find myself drawing Harpie Lady 1 before I draw Egotist, and that allows me to put them back in the deck and be able to search them again, and of course gives us extra use for our signs and our Oracle later on, and so we can go grab our Egotist and keep going off and comboing off, which is great. 1 copy of Double or Nothing, which is essentially the Garnet of our deck. You do draw it a lot of the time. There's nothing you can do about it. I guess every deck that runs Double or Nothing is always in trouble of drawing it. We can discard it for Hysteric Party, I guess. And if we do end up siding in Nightmare Phoenix and making Nightmare Phoenix, we can discard Double or Nothing. But this card's too good not to run in this deck, considering how easy it is to make Utopia double. We have 3 copies of Called by the Grave, because Called by the Grave is pretty much 3 of in every deck now, because of how good it is. 2 Cosmic Cyclone. Despite being a back row hating deck, Cyclone's still important. There Can Only Be One kind of hurts this deck a lot, so Cyclones definitely help us get rid of There Can Only Be Ones. And finally, we have 1 copy of Monster Golem. Moving on to the traps, 3 copies of Harpie's Featherstorm. Why would you not run this card at 3 copies? It's easily one of the best hand traps in the game right now. We can activate from hand if we control a Harpie. We must have a Windwing Beast to activate it, negate every monster effect our opponent would activate till the end of the turn. If it is destroyed by our opponent in our spell and trap card zone, we get to search Harpie's Feather Duster, which actually did come up one time. Someone did destroy it. Sadly, I didn't get to search Feather Duster because it's still banned. But, still a great card, amazing. I was actually, you want to see this card as quickly as possible because you want to shut your opponent's turn down. And of course, it's not once per turn. So if your opponent does chain to it, you can or find a way to negate it, you can just play another one. So that's what's so good about it. 2 copies of Hysteric Party. Why would we not run this? Discard a card, summon as many Harpies as possible from grave. Ways to get rid of bricked cards like Double or Nothing and stuff like that in our hand as well. Can also discard her Hysteric Sign, which will then activate Sign's effect because it was sent to the graveyard, either by destroyed or discard, which is great. 2 copies of Icarus Attack, because another underrated card, Cubital Wing Beast, target 2 cards on the field, destroy them. And the last 2 cards in the deck, we're still running 2 Storming Mirror Force. It's a pretty meme card, but I actually am thinking of swapping this out for something like Trap Trick, just to help us get our Featherstorm set as quickly as possible. The issue is that we do lose a Featherstorm out of this, but if we can go ahead and combo off and win the game next turn with a Utopia double or something like that, if we Trap Trick at the right time and we play our Featherstorm at the right time, and our opponent just throws a really weak monster on the field, boom, there we go, we have game with Utopia double, assuming we don't get ashed. But that's another reason why we main 3 Called By. Moving on to the extra deck, we'll start off with the Link Monsters. 2 copies of Harpie Conductor. I haven't found myself making Conductor as much as I used to in this deck, but I still think she's important to run at 2 copies. Counts as Harpie Lady on the field. If a Harpie monster is destroyed by battle or card effect, we can pop a back row we control instead. And if a Harpie is bounced, we can target one of our opponent's special summon monsters and bounce it as well. So definitely worth running. 1 copy of Great Fly, because it pumps up all our monsters by 500 and lowers all Earth monsters by 400. And if it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, we can add a Wind monster from our graveyard to our hand. 1 copy of Wind, the Wind Charmer Verdant. So her ability is she requires 2 monsters, one of which must be a Wind, so we don't have to worry too much if it's about having 2 wins. We can use this card to get rid of our bricked extra deck monsters that bricked like XZs that aren't wind, which is great. Of course, her ability is we can steal a wind monster from our opponent's graveyard. That doesn't come up too often, but sometimes it does, and sometimes it's funny. And if she's destroyed, well, in your monsters by battle or opponent's card effect, we can add a wind monster with 1500 less defense from our deck to our hand, which is pretty much any monster in our deck with the exception of Ash Blossom and Harpie Queen. So very good to run for us, and Win is also adorable. We have 1 copy of Decode Talker, because just as a beat stick, I actually might swap this out, but now they know that Win is a much better way of getting rid of generic monsters that aren't wind that we have, but still can help us win games if we need to, because he's not different names. And then of course we have Borrello Dragon as our pseudo boss monster in a way, because it's just, you know, 3 of plus effect monsters, doesn't have to be different names, and it's cheap. So if you can tell, we're still kind of budget with this deck. If I had a Borrel Sword, I'd run Borrel Sword. Moving on to the XZs, we have Tornado Dragon, of course, pretty standard, 2 level 4s. It's a win, so we can just link it away if we need to into one of our win links. Detach a material and quick effect to destroy a back row card. We have 1 copy of Utopia and Utopia Double, so I've taken out Lightning just because Double's a little bit more consistent and can win you the game a lot faster. So very powerful combo there. 2 copies of Harpie's Pet Phantasmal. I'm actually thinking of cutting him down to 1 in this deck because I very rarely make this guy. I know this guy's really powerful because he can attack directly. Like, he's basically, if you need to hit for that last amount of damage after you've made double and you haven't got the exact amount of damage to kill them, assuming you survive a turn, and you can make Phantasmal next turn, you can just make Phantasmal and swing because he can't be targeted as long as there's an XYZ material. So he's really, really powerful. But yeah, I was thinking of dropping him down to 1. So if you guys have any suggestions about what I could run instead of him, that would be sweet. Let me know in the comments below. 1 copy of Xerafen. I could easily see Xerafen going back up to 2. Depending on the matchup or depending on who starts showing up to locals. Really powerful card. Detach an XZ, negate all face-up cards on the opponent's side of the field, and then she gains until my standby phase, and she gains 300 attack for every face-up card on the field when this effect was activated. So very difficult for opponents to get rid of. Thankfully, she is limited to level 4 Windwing beasts. 1 Lightning Chidori because it's still relevant. When it's XZ summoned, you can target a set card on your opponent's field, put it on the bottom of their deck. Which kind of forces them to activate if they don't want to, and then we can detach 1 to put a face-up card our opponent controls on the top of their deck. Now, both of these effects are targeting, but of course, with the top deck, you're going to be using it on extra deck monsters, and a lot of extra deck monsters can actually be targeted now, a lot of powerful link monsters, so there's really good ways to hit key combo pieces with Chidori. Sadly, it's not a quick effect, and you have to do it in your own turn, but still can help you win the game. Castell is pretty standard in Harpies at this point. He's a Featherstorm target, so if he's on the field and you set Featherstorm, you can play it. Detach 2 to shuffle any card on your opponent's field, face-up card on your opponent's field to back to the deck, which is nice. And finally, the last monster we're playing is 1 copy of Abyss Dweller, because it's 2 level 4s and it shuts down graveyard decks, which is very powerful. So you can hit dragon decks and stuff like that, which can be completely devastating. Like, if a greatly timed Abyss Dweller can be absolutely devastating. So if you don't know what you're playing against, chances are, and you get made to go first, you kind of want to drop Abyss Dweller first, just in case. If it gets destroyed, there you go, whatever. But if it's kind of worth just using it, because so many decks these days do rely on the graveyard. But anyway, guys, that is it for the Harpie deck. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. If you liked the video, remember to like and subscribe. Be sure to check out some of my other videos up here on the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you for my next video.